The writer and journalist Norman Cousins said, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies in us while we live." The first teachings that inspired me back when I was about 20 years old were the Toltec teachings, popularized by Carlos Castaneda. And one of the sayings was, "Death is over your left shoulder." And it was to remind us that death is right here. It's close. And that we don't know how much time we have left. Maybe we think we'll get 90 years and live to a ripe old age, and therefore we have decades left. But we don't know that. Death is over your left shoulder is to remind us to be ready now and not assume we have all this time ahead of us to get it together, to say what needs to be said, to live with integrity. We need to do that now because later may arrive very soon. In the early 80s, I apprenticed for a few years with a teacher named Sun Bear, and I learned to start my day by giving thanks for the gift of this life, to realize it was a gift, that it wasn't mine or owed to me, and therefore to cherish it because one day it would be gone, be taken away. So whenever I took a life, usually becoming aware of that at mealtime, my grace would be gratitude for all the lives that were being taken, the chicken, the cow, the carrots and the onions, so that I could eat, so that I could live. And it was a remembrance that I was in the circle. I was part of this web, and that someday I too would be eaten, if not by something large like a mountain lion, then by maggots, bacteria, mold, and in that I would be giving this life back and supporting other life. I've had a few times where I've brushed up with death, and unlike, say, a near miss with an oncoming car, had the chance to be aware of it. The most striking was in 1996 when I was on a vision quest in the Gila wilderness. I'd walked along a river, crossed it, and come up onto a bank, and I was surprised to find myself very close to a little bear cub. And then its mother saw me. She was up in a tree and she barreled across a large branch and down the trunk, hit the ground and came at me in a full-bore snarling charge. And my reaction surprised me. On the one hand, I did what I was supposed to do. I backed away slowly while looking slightly askance. On the other, I could feel the adrenaline valve being opened really fast. And then there was something else. Something totally calm, as if it were saying, well, you always wondered when it would happen. Something in me recognized or felt, here is my death, accepted it, and felt that it was a good one. When I first heard about this corona pandemic, my response was similar. It's kind of like, okay, if this is the final act, I'm fine with it. Of course, it could be, or not, and I will probably wash my hands and obey all the directives about 6-foot social distance, etc. Most everything is unknown, but I find that I'm not particularly living in fear of getting COVID-19. I don't wish anyone to get sick, but if you do, I wish you the serenity and acceptance that comes from being ready, from knowing that you've lived fully, that you've fed and cultivated a life and vision that's inspired your soul. And if you're afraid because you haven't done that, I hope that if you get through this pandemic, by the time the next one rolls around, you can meet it knowing that you've lived the best life you could possibly imagine. That the real tragedy is not death. The real tragedy is letting important parts of us die while we're still alive.